The opinions expressed on this podcast by the host are solely the host's own opinions. The hosts do not represent the opinions of the producers of this program, who bear no responsibility or liability for the program's content. The purpose of this podcast is intended to inform its listeners about financial planning and investment issues for qualified individuals and investors. The hosts are receiving no compensation in connection with this podcast. Many of the topics and opinions discussed may be of a personal nature, and some people may disagree or find opinions expressed on this program objectionable. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as investment advice or an offer to invest.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Emergency Room podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Black, and with me today, as usual, is the passive income physician, Thomas Black, MD. Howdy, Tom.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Well, by God, it's a good day. We're going to talk cash flow, and cash flow is king today. Isn't that right?
It is. It is the, well, what can I say? Cash flow is king. It is the crux of freedom. I will say that.
Indeed.
All right.
So let's just jump into cash flow today and why it's king. I think, Tom has some really great stories to talk about, why cash flow is important in your life. And especially for you physicians out there who are grinding it out every day. This story, I think, his stories are really important and, hopefully will resonate with many, many of you. Right. So.
Yeah, let's just jump in. Why don't we go back to, I know on the first podcast, for those of you that listened, we kind of went into our background a little bit more and where we were and where we came from. What I want to do is I really want to concentrate on that decision that to leave the environment that I was in and why, because I think that's where really a lot of doctors and healthcare professionals and people in their positions are really finding. There's some angst there. We've trained for so long. 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school. Anywhere from 3 to 8 years of residency if you're looking at postgrad and fellowships, things like that. So you get down this path, and then what do you have? You've got your first clinical position. You're out there at the hospital. You're grinding it out every day. First year, you love it. You're working, with your hair on fire. You're having a fantastic time.
Most people would think you kind of hit the holy grail getting through medical school.
Yeah,
you're really proud of yourself.
Right.
And many times doctors are in a significant amount of debt because of student loans.
Yeah, the average is probably $250,000, something like that.
Hard to believe. It's really hard to believe.
And the thing is, what is everybody, what is, when you think of doctor, what is the wives' tale, or not, I wouldn't say wives' tale. Let's say, what does everybody think of a doctor? What's the wallet?
You make a ton of money and you're living the good life.
We're all rich, right? We're all rich.
Right.
I drive by subdivisions all the time, and my answer is, who the hell lives there? Right. I don't live there.
Right.
I live in a very modest house, and those are not physicians. Maybe 40 years ago,
those are probably people that figured out that cash flow is king.
You're really good at getting us back on track. You know that?
I'm just saying. Sometimes it happens.
Okay. Well, let's take us back a little bit to the days that I was in, that I made the transition into kind of a mental differences. I'm working 17, 18, sometimes 19 shifts. And, to the layman, that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you throw nights in there, six nights or 5 nights, your days get jumbled up. I had found myself thinking, God, I went through all this training. I like what I do, and I really do, but it was just absolutely wearing on me. And I found myself calling my wife, sometimes on those deep nights where it's 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd actually wake her up. And I was to the point that I was mentally and physically not only exhausted, but probably jeopardizing myself. I had many partners over the years that had chosen to go down a dark hole. And it's understandable. I never understood that until I was there myself. And when I say a dark hole, everybody can probably, relate to the fact that everybody knows, that being a physician and lawyers and things all have huge substance abuse issues, suicide, things like that. I never really got to understand that until I was in there. I was down there, and I wasn't to the point that I would have done something, but I certainly mentally had gone through those thoughts thinking, God, there's got to be a better way.
And it was, for you to tell me this, it was quite alarming because, again, when you think about physicians and doctors, I mean, you kind of reach this pinnacle.
Right.
And for you to talk about, depression and suicide.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're
no,
like,
I mean-
how does that even happen?
In my 10-year, and I'm relatively young, 10-year
So to speak.
career so far as a physician, I mean, I've had 4, not only, I would say more than acquaintances, 2 of them that I've known personally, and 4 actually commit suicide. And people don't realize that physician burnout is a huge topic right now. As we consolidate, we lose autonomy, not to mention the electronic medical records. I mean, there's a lot of things that really throw into this chaos of healthcare. And it's the one profession probably a lot like a lot of people's that income is stagnant. Healthcare costs are going up, and it's not physicians. It's
Right.
not physicians that are making that money.
It's kind of facilities, hospitals,
Right. It's if there's a lot of studies that have been done recently, not only about burnout. Burnout's reaching 50% in most specialties, but top 60% in emergency medicine and critical care and in a couple of the others. So it's really important, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I'll never forget those deep nights calling my wife, thinking I don't know what I'm going to do. What do I do? I'm trained for this. How do I get myself out of this? At those times, I would have rather sat in a cubicle working an 8-to-5 job. But the problem is it was about cash flow, right?
Right.
That was it. So at the time, it had gotten so kind of pivotal to me that I had left after one of these deep nights, and I went to a weekend baseball game, which was on a Saturday. So I worked
I remember this story distinctly.
So I went, and I've got 4 kids, and at the time, I think my son was probably 9 or so. So I had 4 kids under 9, and my 3 girls ran up to me, and I'm in my scrubs because I really tried to pack everything I possibly could in to be that dad. And that there again, there's another pressure. You want to be a great husband, a great father, a great clinician, and you're providing for that family. So I had walked up, and my girls ran up to me, and it wasn't a, "Hey, Dad, I'm really happy to see you," with a hug. It was, "What are you doing here?" And it really caught me off guard. I didn't really know what to say. I said, "Well, what do you mean? I just finished work, and I look a little disheveled, and I'm tired, and I want to go home." And that really hit me. And I went to my wife, and she asked me how I was doing, and I went home, and it was a lot of pause for reflection. I thought, my daughters just asked me why I'm there on a Saturday at my own kid's baseball game, and it hit me. I was never at home.
Right. So this is the pinnacle. This is where
Right.
you say, I got to do something.
Right.
And my kids don't know me. Why are you here?
Yeah, I'm not. I always envisioned my life being, hey, I'm going to be that dad, that
Right.
baseball coach, being there for my kids. And what had happened is I'd transitioned, thinking that I went into a career in emergency medicine. And for those of you that are EM or any of those, non-call type environments, I did that thinking, hey, I'll have my time back and I'll be able to control my own life. And that just was not the truth. Yes, I wasn't on call. And for those of you, realize, and you may not know, when you're on call as a physician, you're really tethered to that hospital. You're tethered to the
right.
pager for calling. And so it hit me. It hit me really hard. And I went home and did some very deep soul searching. And thank God I was already knee deep in real estate, and I was already loving it. And it was an avenue for me. And so it was a complete salvation. And when I made that decision to resign, it was like a huge weight off my shoulders. All of a sudden, it didn't matter about money. It wasn't about money anymore. We moved, figured, hell, we'll figure this out.
Right.
And oddly enough, at the end of the day, I work less and I make more. Even my clinical position, it's
Because of cash flow.
I would say even without cash flow. Making the
Okay.
cash flow is great. It's the
Yep.
icing on the cake. But
Right.
it was the decision making that I need to grab my life and change it around, to do something to be the master of my own domain.
Because you're going down that dark hole. And if
Yeah.
you don't do something about it, you're going to be at the bottom.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
So, I've seen it happen time and time again. And I think the biggest thing is kind of that, what we call the golden handcuffs, right? You get out of residency, you get that great first job, you're loving life, you're making a great income. All of a sudden, you're buying a brand new BMW and a boat, thinking about a lake house, and then you're stunned.
Right,
You're it.
right.
2 years, 3 years in, now you're making mortgage payments, you're doing this, and you've completely rationalized because you deserve it, because you've spent that long in school, that long training, that I deserve this. Why can't I have this? And as soon as you go down that road, you're done, unless you don't have a contingency plan. So that's what I think all about cash flow. I mean, I think cash flow can help you and realize that, first of all, don't get yourself into that situation. That's really
So
important.
for our listeners, how do you create cash? Like, how do you get to this point where it was really crystal for you? And what can I do as a listener?
Sure.
If I'm going down this avenue?
Yeah. And I mean, first of all, I think you've got to look at, everybody talks about, we're talking about IRA investing. We're all thinking about that age 65, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a great thing to do. Always put money towards that, but you've got to think outside that. Rather than that boat, maybe it's a better idea to invest in, not necessarily oil and gas. It's just an alternative investment with real estate, something, in our first podcast, we talked about depreciation, something other than that toy, so that you can actually have that income to be able to offset. It was a wonderful thing when I was able to have cash flow that built up so that I could say, hey, that's one less shift a year. I just took 2 shifts a month, and I wasn't constrained.
It's a great way to think about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because then, I've got $30,000 extra now cash flow coming in. Man, I just reduced, I don't have to work. That's 2 days a month. I don't have to go in the ER now.
So
It's
you start
fantastic.
to equalize that pendulum, if you will.
Right. And so that was really important. And the day you can offset your income with your cash flow, that's freedom, right? Because I could do whatever I
That
want. I could
is
say, you know
freedom.
what?
That is
I'm not
freedom.
I don't think this is a really good thing for me anymore. Or I practice on my own terms, saying, it's great. I really love it. I'm going to continue to do it. It'll offset, that budget a little bit.
Right.
But the day you can decide that you don't want to work because you've got enough cash flow to sustain that is a magical day. I mean,
and you and I have talked about this, and it didn't really crystallize for me for a long time.
Right.
But as you and I started to partner and to work on real estate deals together, it hit me one day what freedom was, and that was to be able to do what I wanted to do on my time.
Right.
And I'm so passionate about it, and I'll talk to other chief executive officers and people in my former career that are just grinding away, like you spoke of, and working for the big corporation, and they're amazed when they're saying, "What are you doing today?" And I'll drive down to
you're
the Chicago
having lunch.
Auto
Yeah.
Show or whatever. I'm
Right.
having lunch with my wife or my kids.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
the
a true
true-
sense of freedom. I
Right.
mean, it really is, because you're untethered, and that's such an important
Yeah, it creates this sense of autonomy. And what it reminds me of is being a physician 40 years ago. You're autonomous.
Right.
You make
Got
your
your
own
doctor
decisions.
bag
Right.
and-
You make
right.
your own decisions. It's what's been taken away. And I think
Right.
we all go down that level when we're all physicians for a reason. We assimilate information. We're educated and trained to be independent thinkers. And then you put us in this box and we're subject to all these things. And it's really difficult to be told what to do, how to do it, how much money you're going to make, and you have no choices. So that when you take that freedom, and that's what really we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about job security. We're talking about job freedom.
That's right.
And when you have that, you become autonomous again.
So, with your book, The Passive Income Physician, you talk a lot about cash flow, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of one
Yeah.
of the things that you talk about, and that was really part of your salvation, I would say. Is
Yeah, and I
creating
think
that cash
when
flow.
we talk about avenues to create cash flow, I mean, it's just real estate is my chosen path. There's
Right.
many ways to create a side cash flow. I mean, a lot of people call it a side hustle, any number of things. I mean, you could talk about mid-level marketing, you could talk about blogging, you could talk about
Sure.
telemedicine for a lot of people. Telemedicine is something they can do on their phone, on their computer in their downtime. So a lot of different ways.
So it's really finding your path that you're passionate about. Yours and mine just happens to be in real estate.
Right. It's just something that I instead of working more for my money, I want my money to work for me. And so, there's that great adage. What's that adage by Warren Buffett?
Yeah, Warren Buffett says he wants to make money while he sleeps.
Yeah, he
And-
said if you don't find a way to work or to make money while you sleep, you'll be working for the rest of your life. And there's some docs that want to do that. It's great because
Cheers
it gives
to
you
them.
a sense of purpose, but not because you have to.
That's right.
I've seen way too many doctors in my practice alone that I run that are doing this in their late 60s into their 70s, and it's not because they like it. It's because they have to, and that's a sad
really
sad.
Yeah,
it
no,
is.
you're exactly
Who wants
right.
to do that into their 70s? I mean, that's the time you're supposed to be not golfing. I mean, I purposely don't. I don't think about retirement. I think retirement is an antiquated thing. I mean, I want to continue doing what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right.
I'm not going to be told what to do.
No, that's exactly right. So, if I'm a listener and I want to, learn more, in our first show we talked about depreciation taxes. If you want to learn more about cash flow and how to create that, how do they reach us?
Yeah, so it'd be our Facebook. First of all, is probably the easiest.
Yes.
The Passive Income Physician. We also have a website that I do a fair amount of blogging on, which is thepassiveincomephysician.com. Also, the moniker freedomintheblack.com. You'll find links on there, not only to some whiteboards, things like that, and topics that we've chosen to discuss, but also some Forbes articles and things that I've written that are published on Forbes. We link to those. So.
I think what's great, in kind of wrapping up today, this session, I think what's also really great about Tom, and not only is he my brother, but Tom is very approachable, relatable, and he will call you back. And
Oh, no,
contact
absolutely.
you.
If there's any listeners out there, I mean, I take numerous calls a week, and it's because I was there,
Right.
and it's not a great place to be. It creates issues with your family, and you went into healthcare because you wanted to help people, and it's been difficult.
The good news is you can turn it. And, we're here to answer
Sure.
questions. And, Tom specifically has been there as a physician. Our upcoming shows, we've got some
we've got some
fantastic things
great
planned.
great guests lined up. We'll be dealing with not only cash flow and some things, but some physicians that
yes.
have gotten outside their clinical practice have created, IT companies, folks that have gone on to manage contract management groups, just some really unique individuals. And again, we're concentrating
Got
not
some
only
attorneys
on
that are
financials.
going to talk about asset protection.
There you
When
go.
you start
So-
accumulating real estate, how do you protect it
Right.
to make sure that you're covered? We're going to have some former chief executive officers to talk about kind of their wisdom and knowledge, and quite frankly, probably some people that are in the space of wealth creation.
Right.
We've got a good friend of yours who creates or helps create wealth, or he's a wealth advisor. We'll be bringing him on the show as
They
well.
will. Some alternative investments and how to leverage. So
Right.
It's really interesting stuff.
So again, folks, people can reach us. Probably the best way is to reach out on our Facebook page, The Passive Income Physician. Thank you for
thanks for
joining us
listening.
today. Yeah, we really appreciate it. And thank you for listening to the Financial Freedom Emergency Room.
Thanks a lot.